Welcome to week 5. We've built our foundation, understanding the problem, developing our theory of change, creating our logic model. Now it's time to design the actual intervention. But here's an important principle. Innovation doesn't mean inventing from scratch. Thousands of interventions have been developed and tested across public health. Many have strong evidence of effectiveness. Why reinvent what already works? Today we'll explore how to find, evaluate, and select evidence-based interventions. We'll also tackle a crucial tension: how to adapt interventions for your local context while maintaining the fidelity that made them effective in the first place. By the end of this lesson, you'll accomplish 3 objectives. First, navigate evidence-based intervention repositories. Several databases catalog interventions with evidence of effectiveness. You'll know where to look and how to search. Second, evaluate the strength of evidence for candidate interventions. Not all evidence is equal. You'll learn to assess whether an intervention is truly evidence-based or just labeled that way. And third, balance adaptation with fidelity. Every intervention needs some tailoring for local context, but too much adaptation can undermine effectiveness. You'll learn to find the right balance. Why start with evidence-based interventions rather than designing from scratch? Thousands of interventions have been rigorously tested: randomized trials, quasi-experimental studies, systematic reviews. We know a lot about what works and what doesn't. Starting from evidence saves time and resources. Developing and testing a new intervention takes years. Adapting an existing one takes months. Funders increasingly require evidence-based approaches. Grant applications that demonstrate evidence for your approach are more competitive. And fundamentally, starting with evidence respects what communities deserve. If there's an intervention proven to work, communities deserve access to it. Innovation for its own sake, when proven alternatives exist, can mean offering communities less than the best. Several sources can help you find evidence-based interventions. Federal clearinghouses maintain searchable databases of interventions that have been reviewed against evidence standards: the Community Guide, Cancer Control Planet, the What Works Clearinghouse. These make searching efficient. Academic literature, particularly systematic reviews and meta-analyses, synthesizes evidence across multiple studies. If a systematic review concludes an intervention type is effective, that's strong evidence. Professional organizations often develop guidelines and recommended practices based on evidence. These translate research into actionable guidance, and don't overlook peer networks. What are similar programs doing successfully? Colleagues may have already done the search you're about to do. Not all evidence is equally strong. Learn to evaluate it critically. Study design matters. Randomized controlled trials provide the strongest evidence because they control for confounding. Quasi-experimental designs are next. Observational studies are weakest for causal claims. Sample size and power matter. Were studies large enough to detect meaningful effects? Small studies with statistically significant results may be unreliable. Replication matters. An intervention that worked in one study might have worked by chance. If it's worked in multiple studies, confidence increases, and population similarity matters. Did studies test the intervention with populations similar to yours? An intervention effective with college students may not work the same way with elderly adults or different cultural groups. A crucial concept for implementation is distinguishing core components from adaptable elements. Core components are the active ingredients, the elements that actually produce the effect. These must be retained for the intervention to work. Adaptable elements can be changed without undermining effectiveness. Language, images, cultural references, delivery format in some cases. Identifying which is which isn't always easy. Sometimes it requires reading the original research to understand what the developers believed made the intervention work. When in doubt, consult with intervention developers if possible. Many are happy to discuss how their intervention can be adapted. They want it to succeed in new contexts too. There's a real tension between adaptation and fidelity. Too much fidelity. Implementing exactly as designed without any modification. Risks an intervention that doesn't fit local context. It may use language that doesn't resonate. It may ignore local customs. It may fail to engage the community. Too much adaptation, changing so much that the intervention is unrecognizable. Risks losing effectiveness. You've kept the name but lost the active ingredients. The goal is what researchers call faithful adaptation. Keep what works, the core components that produce the effect, change what doesn't fit, the adaptable elements that can be tailored without undermining effectiveness. This requires understanding both the intervention and your local context deeply. Adaptations come in different types with different implications. Surface adaptations change language, images, examples, and names without changing content, translating materials, using culturally relevant images, changing names to local names. These rarely threaten fidelity. Deep adaptations engage with values, cultural beliefs, and social structures. They might change how concepts are framed or add components to address cultural factors. These require more care. They can enhance effectiveness but also risk changing core mechanisms. Logistical adaptations change setting, schedule, or delivery format, offering a program in a community center instead of a clinic, changing from weekly to bi-weekly sessions, moving from in-person to virtual. These seem minor but can affect intensity and engagement. Think carefully about which type of adaptation you're making and its potential impact. Whatever adaptations you make, document them carefully. Keep a record of what you changed and why. What element was modified? What was the rationale? Was it based on formative research with the community? Be explicit about which core components you retained and which adaptable elements you modified. This helps you assess later whether any effectiveness problems might stem from adaptation. Track outcomes so you can learn whether adaptations affected effectiveness. Did your adapted version produce similar results to the original, better, worse, and contribute to knowledge by sharing what you learn? The field benefits when practitioners document their adaptations and outcomes. Your experience can help others make better decisions. Sometimes you search and find no evidence-based intervention that fits your specific need. Maybe you're addressing a new problem. Maybe your population is different from those studied. What then? You have options. Adapt something close. An intervention for a similar problem or population might be adaptable. Combine elements from multiple interventions that address different aspects of your problem, or develop something new, recognizing that you're creating an intervention without established evidence. If you develop something new, use theory to guide design. Draw on behavioral theories that explain why people change. This gives your intervention a conceptual foundation even without specific evidence. And build in rigorous evaluation from the start. If you're creating something new, you're also creating evidence. Plan to learn whether it works. Let's summarize our key takeaways. Evidence-based interventions build on what's already proven to work, saving time and improving likelihood of success. Multiple sources can help you identify candidates: clearinghouses, literature, professional guidelines, peer networks. Evaluate evidence strength by considering study design, sample size, replication, and whether study populations match yours. Distinguish core components that must be retained from adaptable elements that can be tailored. Balance fidelity and adaptation to keep what works while fitting local context. And document your adaptations carefully, tracking outcomes to learn whether modifications affected effectiveness. In our next lesson, we'll explore how to integrate behavioral theory into your intervention design. Thank you.